Okay, so there's like a little satyr guy here. He's got like a little flute or something, or maybe a little like mandolin. I don't know, not a mandolin, but something. A cheese grater. He's got a cheese grater. A satyr with a grater. Oh, I'm so stupid. Hey, welcome to Dad Time Jam Time. I'm Alec. Today is kind of an interesting episode. I went to play my tube amp the other day. I went to play my, it's a Fender bass breaker, 15 watt combo. And the power tubes were going, and it was like, wow, every time I tried to play, and it was just like, okay, I can't do this. And then I was like, oh, shiza. With everything that's happening between Russia and Ukraine right now, tubes are hard to get a hold of. I went into this whole downward spiral, like, okay, so in a world without tubes for, you know, a little bit of the foreseeable future, what kind of amp should I get? It came down to a lot, actually. It's like, do you want to go simple digital modeling like a Boss Katana? Do you want to go more complicated digital modeling like a Fender GTX? Do you want to go no amp at all and just go with like a quad Cortex setup out of my studio monitors? Do you want to go into the higher level of like the Fender Tone Master stuff that's like almost $1,000? So many options. So if you're interested in looking at that gamut of options all in the same video, let me know in the comments below. Because I will do it. I will bite the bullet and get a little bit of everything and try them all out. And I don't think I can talk about this topic without mentioning Ukraine and Russia and the war that's happening there and just the massive amount of human tragedy that's happening, especially between parents and children. And as a dad, I can't even fathom watching my kids get on a train and having to leave them while I have to stay and fight. It's a world where I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And so down in the links below, there's also a few organizations that you can consider giving to help kids in Ukraine during this time. I particularly like the Nova organization, which is on the ground in Ukraine, getting supplies, medical care, items for kids all around the country. And then there's Voices of Children that actually brings psychology help to kids of war and helps them work through all the PTSD and other things, and using art therapy and music therapy and stuff like that. So I highly recommend taking a look at those organizations and just seeing if you can do anything to help them out. So anyway, now everything seems so trivial, and it's like, I'm gonna turn the video off and just go give money to kids in Ukraine. That's all that matters. That's it. That's the video. Bye. But I guess if I want people to watch this, then the symbiosis is, let me show you something of value that actually might help you out. So that thing of value here is I went out and got the Orange Amplification Super Crush 100. It's sort of that mid-range, solid state amplifier that's meant to still give you a little bit of that tube feel. So, and Orange amps have been bucket list items for me for as long as I can remember. If you don't know about them, they've been around since the late 60s. I know that, you know, they made a splash because they were bright orange and their whole storefront was bright orange. And I mean, Jimmy Page used them, Stevie Wonder, as far as I know. Peter Green, a guitar hero of mine, I've heard or read things that like Fleetwood Mac used them. So they are on the albums that we know and love, from classic sounds all the way up to modern day. I think like Jim Root from Slipknot uses them. So yeah, it's total dream amps to have. And I think the Super Crush 100 is a really cool hybrid in the Orange line. So let's take a look. I'm going to unbox it now. It's a 100 watt Class AB power amp. It's based off the Pedal Baby power amp that they make, which is like in and of itself like $300 or so. And then it's 2-channel, clean and dirty, all JFET analog circuitry. It's a 2 gain stage clean, a 4 gain stage preamp, dirty, so it gets supposedly pretty crunchy and dirty sounding, higher gain. And it has a buffered effects loop. It has reverb built in. It's got a DI out with cab sim on it. So a lot here. It's a lot of amp. And voila, there it is. Oh, it smells like a new amp. It's like this really nice unlacquered tweed grill. It's got like the piping. One of my favorite things about Orange, and I don't know if you can see this up close or not, all of their knobs have these amazing icons, like a treble clef, a midpoint, a bass clef for the preamp, a little speaker jack for the in. Clean channel's black, dirty channel is orange. Here's master volume and a little spring for the reverb. Power on, clean or dirty switch. This is foot switch controlled as well, which is kind of rad. And a little orange jewel light. And I'd say it's not light. It's not as heavy as a tube amp, but it's definitely not light. It feels very solid. Playing this Silver Sky here. Into it, I'm on the clean channel with the clean volume up pretty high, about 3 o'clock. And then the EQ, bass, and treble are both at 12 o'clock. Here's on the bridge, no reverb, clean channel. Second position. Middle position. Fourth position. Fifth position. Sounds pretty good to my ear. So right away, I'm noticing it's super quiet. Here's the master all the way up. Like if you wanted to take this to a gig, I think it's plenty loud for that, and we're just on the clean channel right now, so fair amount of headroom on the clean channel there. Alright, so let's try it with some reverb on. I'm just going to turn the reverb up to, I'm just going to kind of turn it up a notch for a second. You know, basically it's around 8 o'clock. Wait a second, that's 8? That's like one notch up. That's a crazy amount of reverb for literally just... Okay, so here it is at 0. Now we just go up one notch. Those trails really last. Alright, I'm going to try to turn in the spring up. So now it's about 9 o'clock. Okay, now to like almost 11. Wow. That's a lot of reverb in there. So now I'm at about 3 o'clock, so almost all the way up. Wow, and now this is just it all the way up for whatever you want to do. Almost unusable unless you're doing some kind of crazy ambient stuff. Well, it'll hide your mistakes, that's for sure. Alright, so I'm going to turn the reverb back down to like 1. I don't love how much it trails. The amount of reverb while playing feels good, if that makes sense. Like the amount of like reverb and kind of carryover as you're playing, but then the trails just go on for what feels like way too long. And it's almost like a 4 or 5 second trail at like 2 notches up at like 8 to 9 o'clock. Now what I've done is I've dropped the clean channel gain stage and volume down to about 12 o'clock, and I've cranked the master up a little bit. So before we were kind of hearing it with the gain stage of the clean channel up pretty hard, and it was, you know, hitting pretty fast, and it felt very reactive, and it felt kind of how I would describe more of a solid state amp, which is kind of like less room between playing and hearing. It's less squishy, there's less sort of soft dynamic or sort of ease into the notes and ease into the attack, whereas like a solid state's like feels much more like as you play you hear it really fast as an amp. And this, now that I've kind of backed that gain off a little bit on the clean channel, turned up the master, I feel it has a little bit more of that tube feeling, which is interesting. Alright, so I really am digging that. So like pushing the clean channel a little bit less, turning the master up a little bit more, means you might have a little bit less headroom if you were going to use it clean. But I think a clean boost on this would actually help maybe preserve this tone and get you a little bit louder too. So I think there's a lot of options here. And so now let's check out the dirty channel. Here we go. I'm going to turn the gain up to about 12 o'clock. Let's take a listen. Okay, so let's back that gain off just a little bit. So right around 11 o'clock gain with sort of the channel volume at about 10 and the master volume at about 3. So a lot of headroom and a lot more to go. It kind of gets that edge of breakup tone a little bit. So let's hear it go a little more gain. Okay, so now I'm at about 2 on gain. What's great is I can turn the gain up, but I don't have to back the master volume down too much, because it kind of helps limit it and keep it in a nice area. So the tone is kind of the tone, which is great. So let's take the gain up as kind of far as it'll go. Alright, so this is all in the amp gain. Anyway, the distortion on it, it's got plenty of headroom. That's not my kind of music. I don't play that all the time anymore. And so I hope it helps you kind of hear what you wanted to hear inside of the distortion channel. Let's check out the cab sim. This thing has an analog cab sim in it. Don't know exactly what that means, but I know that there's no IRs or impulse responses, and that it has both an open back and a closed back sound. So let's listen to what it sounds like mic'd up, and then I'll hook up the cab sim, we'll listen to it open back, listen to it closed back, and kind of hear what the difference is. Just played a quick loop, and we can listen to it there. So this is the mic'd up, obviously, version. Alright, so to recap, it sounds pretty darn good to my ear. It's definitely not a tube amp. I can feel the difference playing it, but it's not like that's getting in the way. And if you back the preamps off just a little bit and let the power amp do more of the pushing, it starts to feel a little bit more like a tube amp to me, just to my feel. But overall, the tone sounds great. The headroom seems like it's there, and ultimately, I don't have to worry about finding tubes right now. So I think this is a real win. So cons, there aren't many that I'm seeing. I guess one, it is a little bit more moderately priced. It's like at the $500 range, so it's definitely a little bit more expensive than a Katana or like a GTX, and you get less amps for that money, less amp models for that money. So if you're looking for a wider variety, this might not be the best option for you. The reverb on it is a little bit over the top. The trails on the reverb, even at a low setting, just feels a little bit too long, and it doesn't feel like the knob adjusts the right parameters of the reverb. It just kind of feels like it adjusts the volume or something of it, but not necessarily the trails all the way out. The other con, the getting to the DI out or like any of the speaker ports, anything in the back, it's all facing down in the open back of the cabinet, so you kind of have to get underneath of it and look what you're plugging into. So just, user interface experience, it's just not quite as friendly. And I think that's it. Honestly, I can't think of any more cons. It's definitely heavy. It's definitely got an AB power supply, and it feels, it feels like it's weighty. So don't think this is going to be like the Tone Master, where you can like pick it up with a pinky. It's definitely a little bit different than that. But yeah, overall, I think this is a really solid option if you're looking for something that's not a tube amp right now, and you want kind of a tube amp feel and sounds. And I think as a pedal platform, this thing can probably go even deeper. I think I'll maybe do another video right on that. This has me wondering though, like, I've never played a Katana, and I'm sure I can pick one up used relatively affordably. So let me know what you think of this in the comments below and if you want to see it. But I kind of want to do this idea where it's like, what are all the amp options that are tubeless in today's modern age, and which one's kind of the best, especially for kind of at home, maybe for gigging occasionally. What kind of gives you that feel of a tube amp or that sort of inspiration of a tube amp while also, you know, not taking tubes? I mean, so like the Katana, the GTX, you get a lot of amp models and options. This, you get some pretty straightforward, good JFET solid-state amps. There's like the Line 6 Catalyst, which is kind of more like the Boss Katana that's just come out. There's the Tone Master range up at the higher end. You can use something like a Katana or a Line 6 as a power amp for something like a Helix or a Pod Go or a Kemper or a Quad Cortex, all of which I have, or I mean, I have some of those things. And so it's kind of like, I wonder what the best option for me right now is. I like the simplicity of this. This is pretty straightforward. I like that it's an orange amp. It's something I've been, like I said, it was on a bucket list item. But it's, you know, this day and age, there's so many options. I think I'm going to do a video on trying out a couple more. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Again, there are links below for how to help and support the Ukraine efforts, especially around kids, which is just heartbreaking and devastating. So take a look at that and give anything you can. And you know, in case you don't know, this has been Dad Time Jam Time. I'm Alec, and I'm just kind of on this mission to get 15 minutes a day in jamming, inspiring other people to get 15 minutes a day, you know, practicing, picking up their guitar, looking at different gear that's great for at home and stuff like that. So thanks so much for watching. Cheers.